If you're looking for the best blood flow restriction bands, here's a list you must see. We made this list based on our personal preference and sorted it based on their features, prices, quality, durability, and reputation of the manufacturers and customer feedback. Also, we've included options for every type of customer. So let's get started. At the first position of our list, we have Gym Reaper's Occlusion straps. Out of all the BFR bands I tested, the Gym Reaper's Occlusion straps were the most comfortable. I've worn the arm bands while training in my humid garage without the fabric becoming itchy or irritating once I started sweating. The Gym Reaper's leg bands are too wide, which is standard for BFR bands for the legs. The arm bands are 1.25, which is a little wider than the one width you'll find with some other brands. These BFR bands have numbers, which allows you to get a consistent amount of pressure on both limbs or from workout to workout. I also like that they have half-size indicators as well, so if your desired level of tightness falls in between two numbers, it's easy to get the same result on both limbs. These bands have a locking mechanism that keeps them secure during your workout. It can be easy to pinch the skin on your arms if you're not careful, but as long as you take your time and pay attention to what you're doing, this shouldn't be an issue. Moving on to the next at number 2 with Shape Savage's Blood Flow Restriction Bands. The Shape Savage's BFR bands were the most rigid bands out of the ones I tested. It didn't take much to achieve the correct amount of tightness, and I was able to get a good muscle pump from them. The fabric is elastic and stretchy. It's not quite as comfortable as the Gym Reaper's fabric, but I was still able to wear these bands on my arms while wearing a tank top without them irritating my skin. Unlike a lot of other BFR bands, the Shape Savage's arm bands are too wide. I believe this is what caused me to get a better pump from these than the other bands I tested. These bands don't have a loop to secure the additional fabric. The arm bands are short, so this isn't as much of a concern when training the arms. But for the legs, the extra fabric could get in the way. The only thing I didn't like about these bands is that the buckle is pretty large. When I wore them on my legs, I had to move the buckles to the outside of my thighs so they didn't get caught in my hip crease when I did squatting movements. The number 3 position is held by Viking Strength Blood Restriction Bands. Because the Viking Strength Blood Restriction Bands are available in a package of 4 at a similar price to some bands that only come as a set of 2, they are the most cost-effective option. The Viking Strength BFR bands have a small slide-through buckle. At first I was concerned that it wouldn't be enough to keep the bands in place, but once they were on, I didn't have to readjust them at all. However, the bands have a rubber logo on them that's difficult to get through the buckle on the arm bands. Since the buckle on the leg bands is larger, I didn't have the same issue on the leg bands, though. Another thing I like about these bands is their all-black design. Design may not seem like a big deal for something as simple as a BFR band, but as someone who likes simplicity, I appreciate the minimalist color scheme. Next at number 4 we have Runin Wraps. The Runin Wraps are made from a neoprene material that's the perfect combination of rigidity and stretchiness. The arm bands were easy to fasten by myself. With the leg bands, it took a lot of pulling and adjusting to get the right amount of tightness. Once I got them to fit the way I wanted, there was a lot of extra material, even after I secured the excess through the slack loop. For this reason, I recommend these bands for people with thick thighs. The Runin Wraps have a large rubber logo that's difficult to get through the buckle, even more so than the Viking Strength bands I reviewed above. The number 5 position is held by BFR Bands Occlusion Training Bands. The BFR Bands Occlusion Training Bands are only available as a set of 2, making them a convenient option since you can wear them on either the arms or the legs. Because the buckle is made out of metal, it's pretty heavy, especially on the arms. It's easy to pinch your skin if you're not careful, and these bands are more difficult to adjust by yourself. It's doable, but it requires a little more effort. Getting these bands tight enough on my legs was also more difficult than it was with the other bands I tested. If you have thick thighs, it may take a bit of practice for you to achieve the right amount of pressure. Once the bands are on and fitted properly, they stay in place. Despite the buckle's heaviness, you won't have to worry about the bands becoming undone in the middle of your workout. Finally, the number 6 position is dominated by Iron Bull Strength BFR bands. The Iron Bull Strength BFR bands aren't as rigid as the others on this list, and the material is softer. For these reasons, the Iron Bull Strength BFR bands are a good option for people new to BFR training. It's pretty difficult to make these bands too tight, so if you're concerned about wearing BFR bands correctly, these are an excellent product to help you get used to BFR training. These bands are made from a cotton and elastic material. They are stretchier than the other BFR bands on this list, but once you get them to the desired level of tightness, they stay in place and won't slip during your workout. These particular BFR bands can only be worn on the arms, But Iron Bull Strength also has leg bands as well as a set of bands that can be worn on either the arms or the legs. That's all for today. We upload fitness product review videos every single day, so don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon for the upcoming video notification.